name's Andy Ramgobin. I am the co-founder and managing director of Nix VX. It was a privilege last year to be here standing on stage talking about my day job, which is in enterprise technology for enterprise businesses. So for me to be here today talking about one of my own businesses is a real pleasure. You're going to see, hopefully, something completely different than you've seen so far on your day at Giant. We've been really popular, our stand, with the medical students. We're not healthcare professionals, we're tech professionals. So I'll spend the first part of the talk showing you about where we came from, what our business is, how we got involved with Epic Games, how we're sponsored by Epic Games, how we became to build an Unreal Engine. And then we'll talk a bit about our showcasing our VR mindfulness and meditation app, which you can actually try on the stand via 2 Oculus headsets. And then we'll talk a little bit about how VR is helping healthcare and what the future might look like in the metaverse. So as you can see, we were born in the pandemic. So between myself and 2 other co-founders, we have multiple startups. One of the guys called me and said that he wanted to start up a music business. And I said, no, we've got too many companies. And then the first lockdown hit. And I turned around and I thought, do you know what? No artist or band or musicians can now go to any gigs. Let's give it a go. So we started our first ever business from Nix was actually setting up virtual music events, and gave us a really good POC and understanding of what it takes to run a virtual event. But we also discovered a lot of different limitations. We actually then moved on to doing VR exhibitions. So one of my best friends was a canvas artist. You'll see a bit of footage in a minute. And he was doing an exhibition at Esplanassa 31 in Milan, but because of the pandemic, it got cancelled. So what we did was we took the floor prints and the blueprints of that venue, and we 3D modeled it in Blender, and then we built it in Unity. So we were able to actually run a VR exhibition for anyone that had a VR headset, whether they were in England or whether they were in Milan. Then we moved on to bespoke VR experiences. So we're all gamers, we're all techies, to be honest. And we wanted to create, rather than games, VR experiences. So we've done some really cool music experiences. We just launched something called Once in a Blue Moon onto Steam. And that's going to be available on Epic Store and on Oculus. Again, it's very different. And our main goal is to build VR experiences, not games, and to ultimately build for the metaverse, which hopefully you're going to see some stuff in a minute. So I won't talk too much over this. I'll kind of let you watch this. But this is a show reel from our first 2 years in business. So like I say, we were born in the pandemic. None of us work full-time on this business. It is, for want of a better term, side hustle. We all have full-time jobs. We all have families and other companies. So it's a hard graft. We don't take a penny from the business. We pay our staff, and hopefully we'll get to a point where we will be able to take some sort of payout from the business. But this was a perfect example of our first ever music event. What you can do in a gaming engine is literally no limits. I say to people, unleash your imagination on our creative powerhouse. And there's 2 things. There are 2 limits. Budget, of which we don't have a lot of because we're self-funded, and skills. But if you've got the skills and you've got the money, you will start to see films being made in Unreal Engine. No longer will Avengers Endgame cost 300 million for a special effects studio. We could do it for a fraction of that price. This was an underwater gig where a friend of mine wanted to be a mermaid. Let's go give a figure. So we built it on an underwater pirate ship, and I actually sent that video, I posted that video on LinkedIn, and I had the VP of Unreal Engine connect to me afterwards. And I just reached out to him and said, look, we're building in Unity. We're not really getting any support from Unity whatsoever. Would we be able to get an Epic grant? And he came back within half an hour, put me in touch with the guy in the UK. And that's how our story started. So this is the virtual art gallery that we did, Esplanassa 31 in Milan. This is in 3D and in VR. It's pretty cool. I mean, you can go really close up to the canvas, and you can see a lot of different detail. And this, again, was built in Unity. But this is one of the coolest projects we've done. We've just rebuilt this in Unreal Engine 5.1, but this was originally built in Unity. This was again done with a band called A Mountain of One for a music release. They had this crazy vision of a forest in another world. So when you actually go down and you line up their band sign, their track actually plays. This will be on Oculus Store, free of charge. Most of the stuff we do, to be honest, is free of charge. You know, we're not looking to make any kind of money out of some of these VR experiences. They're just more POCs for what we're trying to achieve, you know, later on in the business strategy. This was crazy. Like I say, I work in IT. I had someone reach out to me after seeing me post something saying that their son had a punk rock band. They played at the 100 Club, which is very famous in London. And again, it was during the pandemic. So the Fleece in Bristol, which is a very famous venue, we took the floor plans, we took the images, and we basically rebuilt the Fleece like for like. This is a project once in a blue moon that we just built. This is kind of old footage. If you go onto our YouTube channel, you'll see some really cool footage of it. We put this onto Steam for 99p just to see what happened. And we had 38 people buy it within a couple of weeks. So quite nice for us. I mean, we probably won't make any money in terms of how much it actually cost us in time to build. But you can see really, again, you know, the purpose of this is to show you that we kind of could do whatever we wanted. You know, we don't have investors. It's a couple of guys that own a business that if we think something's cool and we want to do it, we're able to do it, which is a really good position for us to be in. And that's pretty much the show reel. From an Epic Games perspective, we've talked about how we got in touch with Epic Games. I think what's really important is that Epic Games really want to support their ecosystem, irrespective of what you're doing. So, you know, I'm here to talk about a VR meditation app and mindfulness, meditation and mental health in the metaverse. But Epic Games will support you and fund you if you're doing anything that is seen to leverage or build their ecosystem. It took us a whole year from when we applied to actually receive the money. Being as naive as we are, you know, we didn't have a dollar account for our Starling Bank, so the money got rejected about 3 different times. It took us another month to go through the tax legal stuff that we had to go through, Googling things to work out whether we were ticking the right boxes or not. It was pretty stressful, to be fair. But when we got the money, our plan was to build for the metaverse. That's how we got our grant. And our grant was about building something that we call the Universal Avatar System. So you've got multiple people now that are building different metaverses, Microsoft, Meta, Decentraland. And if you are going to have a digital persona or digital avatar, and you're going to have rewards, customizations, microtransactions, you need to be able to move those digital assets across metaverses. And I'll show you what we've built. It's the first of its kind, and hopefully it's going to help us become what we call the backbone of the metaverse. So our ultimate goal now is to become the connected fabric for every user to every metaverse. Ultimately, you've got a data governance issue now with GDPR and data governance around sharing assets between metaverses. That's our ultimate goal, to be able to allow any contributor to share with any world creator to share anywhere on any metaverse. Hopefully that all makes a bit of sense. So I'm going to show you another little bit of video. I think, again, you can probably work out exactly what's going on the screen. But this was a showcase that we did to Epic Games just to really let them know that we have delivered on the money that we took from them. You'd be surprised. We thought we were going to get audited hard from Epic Games after 8 weeks. We got an email that asked us to fill in a questionnaire on what we'd done. So we thought that was the pre-stage. We were really gearing up for a forensic audit. We sent the email back and we got the rest of the money. So I don't think Epic Games are necessarily super concerned, so long as you've got a good business plan and you can show that you're going to do something. But really what you're seeing here, this is kind of just a highlight trailer, is you'll see a user log into one Unreal application. And we're talking about Unreal Engine today. It could be Unity, it could be, you know, it could be another gaming engine. And that's what you're going to see right now is a user logging into a single application. That user is going to run around in an avatar skin. They're only going to have access to a couple of different avatars. They're going to log out of that application, log into another application, and they're going to go and find a treasure chest that's going to give them a third avatar skin. Now, that's in a completely separate Unreal application. The whole point now is that when we log out of that second application and we log back into the first application, that we have that avatar skin. That is our POC effectively, to say that we can help someone carry a digital asset now between Unreal applications. That will then extend between Unreal, Unity to all metaverses. Epic Games did fund it. They know full well that our plan isn't just to work with Epic Games. It is to only build an Unreal Engine. But Epic Games aren't just the only metaverse. There should only be one metaverse. That's the way that Neil Stevenson wrote it in Snow Crash. That's where our business is inspired from. However, typical in technology, there's lots of people with lots of money doing lots of different things, thinking they know the best. And we don't know. We're not metaverse experts. We're just a couple of guys doing something in our spare time, trying to make a bit of a difference and hopefully make users' adoption seamless and dynamic, and we can accelerate adoption to the metaverse. So hopefully I haven't distracted you too much by talking over this, but hopefully you can now see that in the newest, returning to the old application, we do now have 3 avatar skins, which is pretty much the gist of that video. So what am I here to talk to you about today? Really, probably it's going to be A Breath of Serenity. So that is our VR and mindfulness meditation app. So I have a chronic health problem that's undiagnosed. I've had it since I tore my stomach for 6 years. NHS have been fantastic with surgery when they've known what the problem was. I've had 2 surgeries at Kingston Hospital. They couldn't have been better. But when I turned up with a torn stomach and a bladder problem, in my early 30s, the healthcare professionals had no idea. I had probably 6 different MRI scans in 6 different places, 2 different CAT scans, put on gabapentin, diazepam for months on end. I mean, they would have carried on giving me diazepam if I hadn't stopped and said, "Do you know what? I'd rather not take any controlled drugs and be a lab rat. I would rather just do cold showers, exercise as much as I love it, and swim and do meditation." So I started on Headspace 3.5 years ago, and I use it religiously every single day. I am a person that sadly works 80 to 100-hour weeks under heart attack pressure. And if I didn't have something like Headspace, I'm not sure how I would get through each day, in all honesty. So this project is really passionate for me. It means something to me personally. But all of the team meditate, probably because we work so hard that we need something to give us, that bit of peace of mind and escape from anxiety. What we wanted to do with A Breath of Serenity is completely different from what we've done with the other projects we've shown you. We didn't want it to be photorealistic with high-performance graphics. We wanted the true immersion to come from the actual environment. So if I think of Headspace, Andy, the speaker on Headspace, is pretty much a part of my life. I can't even use the other 2 speakers because it just feels like I'm cheating on Andy. So I use that every day. But it is limited. When you do the same meditations 3.5 years every single day, there's only so far you can go. So for me, it was really important that we were able to take all of our experiences in 3D and VR, and we were able to do something that would take what Headspace, Calm, lots of other different apps do, but extend it into a 3D immersive environment where you can truly relax and get some escapism from whatever it is in life that's troubling you. So I've got some early stage development footage. I will say it's early stage because I had the poor devs build this in 6 weeks so that we would have something to present on stage at Giant. So the guys have worked extremely hard. They're both on the stand at the moment. We flew them over from Gdansk in Poland. They do deserve a huge shout out, quite frankly, because we couldn't do anything that we do without our staff. So what you're seeing here is what we call a Japanese oasis. We've got a pagoda. All of this will have full pictures. So we're aiming to go to market with this in early March. So there's still a lot of work to do on this, but you can try all this on the Oculus headsets on the stand, literally just on this floor. You'll see when you go outside that we've got some low poly cherry blossom. again, what we didn't want to do is make it too real and photorealistic. We wanted the immersion to come from the soundscape. We've got guided meditation, we've got breathing meditation, we've got sound meditation. And VR, what's really important with VR is interactions. That's how you really immerse yourself in VR. So we have stone stacking, which is live now. You can actually try this. I can tell you now, not just because it's my business, it is incredibly therapeutic, twisting the stones and actually placing them one-on-one. But eventually what we'll have is a koi pond, we'll have a bonsai trimming plant, we'll have a make your own mandala, and sand raking as well. So just a number of different VR interactions that would allow, a user to immerse themselves in a 3D environment, meditating, being mindful while keeping their eyes open, because anyone that's meditated with Calm or something like that, or Headspace, will know that really the premise of meditation is to keep your eyes closed and to breathe naturally. So I actually did a talk on the other stage down the end last year. Again, most of that was on cybersecurity, AI, machine learning. But I had one slide at the end that was around AR and VR in medicine. And I came off that stage and I had a medical student ask me how long did I think it was going to take for medical students to be able to train with VR. And I said, honestly, I don't know. I've got no idea, but I would like to think in the next year or two. We've been inundated with medical students at our stand today, which has been fantastic for us. Imperial, Barts, a number of them. And actually, all of them pretty much have said that they've all had access to a VR headset. So in just 12 months, it's really, I can genuinely say, having been here a year ago, things have changed massively in just a 12-month period. So I'll keep this fairly brief because I'm sure you've heard tons about VR in healthcare. But, we're talking about immersive education. That's the ability for medical students now to practice without harming themselves or harming others. No longer is it just about cadavers theoretical process. There's more training available in VR in a stimulated environment, in an immersive environment where you can do a lot more without having to work on a real-life patient. I think looking at practicing with medical instruments, being able to improve accuracy and motor skills as a trainee is really important. There's a really cool company called Human Sims that is already delivering medical training today to medical students, which is really fantastic. Improved surgery. I'm not a surgeon. I've got a huge amount of respect for surgeons. But for surgeons to be able to train to complete complex procedures is now much easier with VR technology. We've got an environment where they can practice and improve their motor skills and accuracy, but they can really reduce the risks of errors or problems prior to surgery and also post-complications after surgery, which I think is really important. In my line of work, in my day job, I'm heavily involved in building digital twins for smart cities for autonomous vehicles, using AI, data science, and high-performance compute. I can really understand what it means to build a digital twin of a human body. I probably couldn't do anything useful with it, but medical students most definitely can. I think if you imagine a digital twin of the human body, how deep and how granular you can go with research. I think everything in healthcare at the moment is about delivering better patient outcomes. And I think VR in healthcare delivers better patient outcomes. Combating memory and motor skills disorders. It's already been proven in a lot of areas that VR can strengthen cognitive focus and strengthen memory in Alzheimer's and dementia patients. We've got things like the Way Back, which is really important around drug use and things like that. That's a really cool program. We've got stuff like Proximie, which again is allowing people to scan in AR human bodies in real time for problems prior to surgery. There's a lot of different things going on. I think one of the most interesting things, obviously we're talking about the mental health track today, is there is a lot going on around VR and paranoia and depression. But for me, I would say probably one of the biggest areas is if you've got agoraphobia or you struggle from a disability and you physically can't get out of the building or you're stuck within four walls, you've seen a lot of different stuff today to show you that you can escape to a real-life immersive world. For me, that's a game-changing impact on someone's mental health. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some really cool stuff coming in this space. And like I say, we're not healthcare professionals. That's not our business. We're tech professionals. We just happen to do something that's a passion project for us. We talk about improved collaboration. One of the reasons that we started the business in the first place with the music events was to allow people to collaborate with band members in different locations. And the technology just wasn't really there to do real-time streaming. We need backbone 5G infrastructure. It will be there in a couple of years, most definite. But if you imagine now that you can bring the brightest minds in science and healthcare together to collaborate, put them in a digital world, and that digital world could be called the metaverse. The metaverse is something that's not tangible, quite frankly. I mean, I could tell you whatever I want about the metaverse today, and it would just be a man's opinion of it. Lots of different people will tell you lots of different things. It's not tangible, it isn't. But that shouldn't stop people from doing stuff in the metaverse, because it's what we're doing currently now, and hundreds of other businesses are trying to pave a way, trying to carve a narrative, and trying to paint a picture or a panacea of what the metaverse potentially can be. We talked about Neil Stephenson and Snow Crash. That's where the term metaverse came from. A book written in 1992, which was about real people living in the real world, having digital avatars and being able to plug into a digital world. If you're not familiar with the term Web3, it goes hand in hand with the metaverse. So Web3 is a new version of Web2. Web2 is the internet as we know it. Web3 is a convergence of AR, VR, AI, blockchain, NFTs, cryptocurrencies, you name it. All the stuff that doesn't quite work now that everyone's been telling you to invest in. I personally wouldn't. I don't have any cryptocurrency. I wouldn't take an NFT. I certainly wouldn't buy property in the metaverse. Definitely do not buy property in the metaverse. Just yet. But when Web3 really comes together, it is going to be the fabric of trading in what we're going to call a digital world and a digital metaverse. And I think, although we're not quite there yet, I think we really will be. There's some really cool stuff around some of the stuff around ADHD. I just did a little bit of research yesterday, funnily enough, because I have a full-time job and I didn't actually have very much time to prepare to speak today. But I found out that, looking at a couple of research studies, that children are apparently more engaged and stimulated in VR, which was improving their compliance for a patient. So there's lots of different studies that you can find out there. Just on Google, research papers, white papers, lots of different stats around how ADHD is being helped, or patients with ADHD, children with ADHD are being helped with VR. Even eating disorders, this was one that I was quite impressed with, actually. They were using VR to expose patients to various different stimuli, working out which stimuli elicited the biggest cravings, and then helping those patients deal with those cravings in a safe VR environment. I mean, I would never have thought that, people were doing anything in VR with eating disorders. And I think it just shows you the scope and the scale that VR can affect if there's the right kind of investment and the right kind of research going into it. Anxiety, phobias, and PTSD, I think probably every single person in this venue has got something to be anxious about. We've all got phobias. We don't all have PTSD. But there is a lot. I think one of the biggest things was PTSD. That was one area that VR really came into, because you could tailor the combat scenario to that individual soldier. So it was really high-class, enterprise, bespoke treatment. And if you look at it, in the industry today, and again, I'm not a medical professional, I am someone that's been in a hospital a lot to have a lot of different tests. It's one size fits all, and as soon as something deviates from the norm, that's it. Pretty much you're put into a box of undiagnosed, and then you've got to deal with it yourself. So I think autism was another one that was really interesting. So there was quite a few research and studies around using digital avatars to create job interviews and meetings where they could help kids with autism actually improve their communication skills, which I found are really compelling, to be honest. And then stress and pain management is someone that has to manage pain and stress on a daily basis without the tools of medicine, because ultimately, you know, sometimes health is the best medicine. Living a clean life, not drinking any alcohol, you know, exercising, eating fruit and veg, you know, all the things that we probably take for granted. That's probably the best way to solve a lot of problems. But if for any reason you do have a chronic health problem, and again, you're stuck within the same four walls, you've broken your leg and you can't walk, you know, imagine if you are able to have a VR headset, what can that potentially do for that person's mental health? Like I say, we're not health professionals, we're not clinicians, we're just guys in a tech company that are doing something in VR and a metaverse. But I do think there's a real move for VR in mental health. And I think when the metaverse does really kick off, which I don't think is going to be for 3 to 5 years. I work in an industry that deals with disruptive technology day in, day out, and I've lived and breathed it for 13 years. Technology takes 5 to 7 years for adoption. That's usually one, because education is here. We all expect people to just adopt something because people with a lot of money build something and tell them that they need it. It doesn't work like that. And then price point is over here. So education needs to come this way, and price needs to come this way, and that's what accelerates adoption. So thank you for listening. I hope you found that useful. Like I say, it's probably very different, or hopefully very different to anything you've heard today. My name's Andy Ramgobin, and we are NixVX.
We've got time for just one question. If anyone's got a burning question, that'd be really useful.
Oh, you're making it way too easy.
I've got a question for you in that case. So you're building an avatar to be universal. Ready Player Me have just raised $64 million in August.
Yep.
How do they compete with you?
Well, we don't see we compete with anyone. Our goal is to allow all people that create digital avatars to connect with all metaverses. So our next goal will be creating a data governance fabric that will allow Ready Player Me, Wolf 3D, the hundreds and thousands of avatar players there will be, to connect with everyone that they can't connect with. So we don't really see competition, because we're not trying to do anything other than connect people and connect things, if that makes sense.
Sure. And have you heard of the XRSI?
No.
So that's an agency set up by Kabir Perman from Facebook.
Okay.
Around governance and data around the metaverse.
Yeah.
It's worth seeing. It's Metaverse Week this week.
Yeah, so we're working really closely with the Metaverse Open Framework.
Yep.
So I wonder, is that part of it?
Slightly different. They're creating this data and standards across Metaverse, but it's worth connecting with them.
Oh, fantastic.
When
Thank you very much.
Your product.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.